Hey, this is Class Creatives, and in this video we'll look into what exactly is making Sony Pictures Animation stand out from other 3D animated movies, this time with their latest movie, GOAT. They are taking another bold approach to the visual style with impact frames and stylized hand-drawn painted looks to make it feel different than other animal-based 3D movies we've seen in the past. With the landscape of 3D animation shifting away from the perfect renders to a more graphical and rougher design, is GOAT another hit for Sony? And are they subtly implying their status on the medium with their movie title? Or is it serving as more of a training ground for them to test out some new techniques as they prepare us for what we really want, the third installment of the Spider-Verse? Let's take a peek behind what Sony Pictures Animation is cooking up with their newest movie and how they have arguably already taken the crown to be the GOAT of 3D animated features. It's been a while since the real GOAT himself made an animated movie about basketball.
It's gonna be the greatest thing about the whole movie.
But that was a different era and used 2D animation. Now we're about to see the modern day version on arguably the best and hottest animation studios take on the game to try and steal the GOAT's crown for the best animated movie about the game of basketball. Early production on GOAT took a slightly different path than using traditional storyboards. The team took 3 years to work on pivotal scenes in the movie. They 3D printed characters on a mock rollerball court to model authentic action segments. They even brought in the non-GOAT, although he has 4 rings, NBA Andre Iguodala as a consultant to look at storyboards and assist with the gameplay choreography. As with all of Sony Pictures animated movies, a lot of research was done for the character designs, and in GOAT they were heavily influenced by ancient African sculpture, favoring the faceted sculptural look that interacts with lighting in a dynamic way. With the tech that they developed for Mochi the dog on Mitchell's vs. the Machines, where they cleverly used outlines and simplifying his fur to keep him looking like a sketch, this served as a nice baseline for what they are achieving in GOAT. For the main characters of Will and Jet, the designers looked at the plane changes and surfaces to ensure there was a clear sense of movement, since they're covered in dark fur, which can be difficult to see while in motion. This again is a stark contrast to what we see in more realistic animal fur like that of Zootopia, where the focus there was to have a really realistic and technical approach to the fur. Speaking of Zootopia, for the sequel they introduced a very complex character, Gary the Snake. And although the movie was in the traditional Disney visual style, the legendary Eric Goldberg created 2D tests to flesh out Gary's personality. This 2D animated test gave the team a roadmap for how a limbless character could gesture through coils and posture. To keep his appeal, they gave him a cartoon tongue for appealing acting and a serpent tongue for his signature S sounds. And if he happens to remind you of a previous Disney character, you're most likely thinking of Disney's classic Robin Hood character, Sir Hiss, who they borrowed a lot of ideas from. So although 2D animation was not used to visually enhance the movie itself, 2D was still used in the production so that the animators could prevent him from looking rubbery, and the rigging team even developed some special software called Scoot, short for Scale Authoring Tool, that helped the scales grow procedurally. So when animators had his body stretch, like when he throws a book for example, Scoot ensured that the scales didn't just get bigger and fake looking. Instead, it stretched what they called the gout, the skin between the scales, to mimic how real snakes expand after eating a meal. Animators went as far as hacking the rig for a complex shot where Gary wraps around a character and yanks them off stage, by stitching 5 separate Gary rigs together since the rig wasn't long enough, and they even fixed the motion blur nightmare by manually keying visibility of each snake on and off every other frame. Due to the complexity and nature of Zootopia 2, Disney switched from Autodesk Maya to their proprietary software Presto, which is also initially used by Pixar, which allowed the departments to work on the same scene at the same time. It's interesting to see that after all these years, Disney made the switch to their own in-house software, so we'll have to see if Sony Pictures Animation does the same in the near future. So although Disney kept their traditional look, they pushed the boundaries with a lot of technical achievements and increasing the sheer number of animals on the screen at the same time, with a shot estimated to have over 50,000 animals in it. Anyway, enough about Disney and Zootopia, let's get back to Sony's GOAT. For the environments, the production team wanted to ensure that they felt lived in and gritty, with an urban feel drawing inspiration from classic live-action cinema masterpieces like City of God. They specifically wanted to separate the world of GOAT from the world of Disney's animal-centric film Zootopia. This is a high contrast to the approach Sony took for K-pop Demon Hunters, where they chose to move away from the 2D Spider-Verse look and instead used the quote three-dimensional language inspired by 2D aesthetics. To prevent the screen from feeling too chaotic, they used a highlighting technique with strong directional light to make characters pop against the busier backgrounds. Rather than blurring backgrounds to create atmospheric perspective, they used haze and fog techniques while keeping everything in focus to maintain the graphic look. We aren't really seeing the strong heavy ink-lined outlines that we saw that were developed for Mitchell vs. the Machines or the Spider-Verse. So it seems this time they are taking a bit of a hybrid approach where they have the graphical elements of the Spider-Verse in design and painting, with K-pop's cleaner look where the focus is still to give a 2D aesthetic. The costumes and character design blends animal anatomy with modern fashion, reminiscent of their approach to the Spider-Verse. Hours were spent researching how animals like ostriches and rhinos move before building a massive deck of streetwear-based designs. The character Will had a bulky layered look to give him a sense of confidence and presence. To contrast this design, Jet has a sleek catsuit with metallic accents that feature her fur highlighting her strength. Everything Sony learned on K-pop Demon Hunters, where a fashion-forward look was the focus, coming up with unique techniques for makeup, costume, live-action lighting, and glamour to make the characters look and feel like K-pop idols, is being used on the small details for the characters in GOAT, such as nail polish on Moto and his Ethiopian tapestry-inspired clothing. Sometimes in production, character choices don't quite hit during the early screenings, and this was the case for Coach Dennis, who started as a mean character and evolved into a more improvisational, animal-based character.
I breathed it in!
Is it your dream to someday work for Sony Pictures Animation? If not, feel free to skip ahead to the next section or stick around if you're just curious about what they look for in artists they want to hire. We create videos like this one to not only show you how 3D animated features are made, but to also give you a chance to learn the exact workflows necessary for your career or even your own personal projects. Most feature animation studios will want Maya Experience or something equivalent if you're an animator, and ZBrush or equivalent for character sculpting. Several of our instructors actually work for Sony, and you can learn from them in our courses covering everything from animation and rigging to environment and game design and character creation. We'll have some links in the description if you're interested in taking your art in a new direction with us. When you watch GOAT, you'll notice familiar explosive impact frames on key animated moments like when someone throws down a massive dunk. Sony wanted to push the effect a little bit more and take a slightly different approach than how they did it on the Spider-Verse. So instead of standard flashes, they wanted to lean into some nostalgia, like what 90s sports cars had back in the day. So to pull this effect off, the team developed some new custom tools. Like this one here when Grizz moves his claws, leaving behind iridescent motion trails, which is inspired by those rainbow shimmering holographic foil cards you'd find in a rare pack of trading cards. They even found a way to put that gold foil stamp effect to highlight the biggest plays in the movie. So Sony found yet another creative angle to bring something new with their 3D shaders and material layering while staying true to the story theme of the movie. The effect has Grizz ripping through digital paint of the scene using alpha masking to reveal the hidden gold layer underneath. They wanted to give the viewer the feeling of when you would unbox that rare one-of-one holographic card. It's amazing to see how far Sony is pushing the 3D medium since the initial test back in 2015 from Alberto Mielgo and his team for the initial Spider-Verse tests. We did a full video on Alberto, so be sure to take a look at what he's been up to as well. That is also pushing the 3D medium in new directions. And let's not forget Fortiche and how they are revolutionizing episodic television with Arcane. Well, that about wraps up this video on why some are saying that Sony is currently the GOAT of animation. They aren't just telling us new stories, but they are also building the tools that allow these new stories to look like something we have never seen before in 3D animation. They now have the graffiti and grit of the Spider-Verse, the glamour of K-pop, and the heart of the Mitchells. They continue to push the bar higher and higher. And Disney still has their traditional franchise look, but we can't help but wonder if someday we'll see the power of legends like Eric Goldberg animating to stylized 2D enhanced hand-painted Spider-Verse style graphic features in our lifetimes. That might be truly the best of both 2D and 3D worlds coming together like never before. We hope you enjoyed our insights and the research that we did for this video, diving into tons of Instagram posts, interviews, and documentaries to highlight Sony Pictures Animation process together. We did it the old-fashioned way, with research, lots of notes, and typing out our script. Sony Pictures Animation has been on fire lately. What are some of your favorite movies from them, and are you going to see GOAT in theaters on release day? Or are you sitting this one out until Beyond the Spider-Verse drops? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Perfect.